Okay, welcome to another Light Conversation with Sherry Kay and friends. Thank you for being here, Lorena, Anna, Nikki, and Michelle. Appreciate that. All are welcome in the sacred space. To start off with, as usual, I'd like to just call in our guides, our angels, all of our spirit helpers to be with us in the sacred space. We give our gratitude, our love, and respect, and ask that you be with us this night. Thank you. So as always, too, the conversation, we have the intent of growing and sharing our truth. We welcome all perspectives here. And because we're all on our own journeys, we need to remember that we do have our own perspectives, but they are all definitely welcome here. And so with also the intent of raising the vibration as much as we can, holding it here in the sacred space. And for also those that come on and listen to us later on, we appreciate that as well. So tonight we're going to talk about projection and reflection. So that was a suggested topic, and I appreciate that coming through. Nikki had suggested it a few weeks ago, and I thought, what a good way to, a good subject to have right now with us coming through all the subjects that we've had so far with the ego, with words, with authenticity, because it all just really kind of ties in, right? And so to start with on reflection, it's one of the things that I've have brought up before in a group setting with all of us. And that is that basically when we look at another individual, they're just another reflection of us. They're just another version of us, right? So we're all these divine souls. We're all connected. We're all here from the same spark of source. And so when we look at someone else and we remember that's just another version of ourselves, hopefully that self-love that we've been working on, that self-talk that we have for ourselves, that's what's projected out to the other person, right? So reflection and projection. One of the things that I came across was Thomas A. Kempis. I don't know him personally, but I read about him. He said that we need to seek to overcome that in yourself which most disturbs you in other people. So I'll say that again. Seek to overcome that in yourself which most disturbs you in other people. So that's where projection comes in, right? So when something happens and we get triggered, one of the things that we talked about, right? And so why is it that we're getting triggered? What is it in ourselves that is coming up for us that is making us have this trigger or this projection onto this person? So it could be judgment. It could be someone being maybe we're in judgment of them being inauthentic. Maybe it's envy. Maybe it's they have some arrogance or some superiority. So some of those things we can talk about as far as when we see that, how do we look at that, and do we look within, or do we project onto that person or others around us? And so I'll kind of open up the conversation with that and let you guys have a little say on reflection and projection yourself.
Awesome. Is it okay if I go ahead?
Absolutely.
Coming out of a few years of learning of this and being aware of this. And so I think that's one of the first things, is being aware that this is happening. And it's beautiful to think that everyone is kind of a mirror of what you're seeing inside of yourself. And so I'll even question to this day, I'll question and I'll say, am I really seeing that? Or am I projecting that on them for me to recognize it? And it's like when it's sharp, or whatever word you want to put on that, the first reaction is you get off balance, because when you're recognizing, you're like, whoa, that one I didn't expect. But as you're aware and you're recognizing of this, you can quickly align and get back into balance. And then you can react accordingly. Or it's really wonderful, because it teaches you to get out of your head, to slow down before you react and you speak, and it can't happen unless you learn to love yourself. And because in the last couple of years, I've learned to love myself in the darkest moments of my life, with physical pain and this fracturing of the mind when you go through extremes. That love, it becomes so deep, kind of goes hand in hand with the pain that you go through, with the things that you go through in your life that is considered painful, because pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. You don't have to suffer. And when you learn that, it just kind of brings you back to that centered focus, and you don't react when someone, that mirror, that reflection of yourself outside of yourself is causing that trigger. You react with more love, and it's really quite beautiful, and empathy. And even for my own children, I've learned to love them deeper because I'm loving myself deeper. And I didn't understand that when I was a young mother. I didn't like myself, but I loved them desperately. And so because I loved them so much, and I felt so out of control, I wanted to control, make sure that they were safe, make sure they were good, make sure they were going to church. Now I honor their journey as I honor my own journey. And it's a beautiful process when you can really get into it and recognize it.
Yeah, I think two of the main points that you brought up was the self-awareness and the self-love. That's like so important, because without them, it's like you said, the reaction is going to be different. And so that's when we can get into judgment. And it can happen so easy, right? Say road rage, even in the smallest way, right? We're going down the road, someone cuts us off or whatever, and it's just like, you just get like frustrated or judgmental or whatever. And I think that as long as, who was it that said it? I think it was you, Anna, who said that as long as you change your mind within like 30 or 90 seconds, you can transmute that negative piece that comes through on you. But it happens, right? It's such the programming that we've had over the years, that where we can get triggered so easily or have that little bit of judgment. And so one of the things that I do in that kind of an instance is I say, you know what, their mother must have had a heart attack and they need to get to where they're going, and they're probably frantic to get to their loved one. That's the way I look at it, so, and it helps me just, it's okay. If they needed to do that, that's okay. And it's not always like that, though. It's very easy to go into the judgment of why these people are being so stupid and why they have to, cut every car off or be a maniac on the road, or they're an accident waiting to happen. And when you're putting that out there, projecting that out there, that's going to make a huge difference. And so it's like you said, if you're self-aware, then that's when you look at your own reflection, you go inward. And when you go inward, this is where you find the balance. And it's not always that easy. And it takes time, and it takes exercise. Like the more we exercise that.
And it's exercising that self-talk, how we talk to ourselves. How we talk to ourselves is how we're going to talk to other people. What are you doing out of the picture? Get over here.
Oh, I can't even see that.
We were leaving over there. I'm like, go over there. It's, and you know what's so beautiful? I have just changed my living situation. I didn't understand how extreme the living situation was that I was in, because it's what I've been in my whole life. And moving out of that into this living situation with a beautiful soul, wow, it's so beautiful to me.
Mm.
I think our conversations, we bring both of our knowledge to the table, and we've worked through things that I believe would take others months to work through. We've done it in a less than a day, because I just came in last night.
Right.
Yeah, like it's
Wow.
been one day since I've been here. It feels like I've been here for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Not kidding.
Wow.
But we've worked through the things, and we're doing this because we're going to have other individuals, and it's beautiful, because I'm envisioning what Lorena is feeling, and in her situation, I'm visualizing what my situation is going to be, and what the other people are going to be, and that is, it's like planning your future, but in the present moment.
And we're doing it together. So I'm
Together.
thinking about what she's feeling, and
and
she's
vice
thinking
versa.
about, yeah. And I love it. It's been really good to
That is so great. It really is. You know, I think for, like you said, Anna, where it's taken you like the least amount of time it possibly could take for you guys to just work your things out. For a lot of people that are not in that self-awareness or that self-love or that self-talk, they go, it's in the ego, right? And so when they're living in their ego and their own personality, as Matthias was saying earlier today when I was watching him, they go into their hiding. That's their hiding spot, right? And so instead of working it out, getting to the root cause, looking within, having that self-awareness, instead they do the opposite, and they hide from it. And then when you hide from it, you don't talk about it, you don't, or you bark about it, instead of talking it out. It's a conflict, right? And so where that's the projection, right, onto another person, and where that conflict comes. And so that's where going back from the thing that you said originally, it's that self-awareness and that self-love. And we talked about self-talk in the last couple of episodes, and it's so important to have that self-talk. And no one else can be around. You just talk to yourself. You just work it out for yourself. You go within, you work it out. And the next thing you know, when something happens and maybe you get triggered, but then you're like, oh, wait a minute. And you take a step back, right? We're the observer again, which we've also talked about. And then you just observe the whole situation, and you're just like, wow, I need to look at myself. I need to see why that triggered me. And I think that more of the self-awareness and that self-love you have, and the more exercising of this type of observation, the easier it gets as you go. That's my 2 cents anyway.
Can I share a story?
Yes.
About 2.5 years ago, I was just learning all this stuff, and because I was in so I'll back up, and 4 years ago next month, I was in a car collision that completely changed my life, physically, emotionally, mentally, everything. And so it was very neurological. My nervous system, my vagus nerve went offline. I was in fight or flight or shut down. That's all I did, was fight or flight or shut down. And with extreme nerve pain. And so in the middle of this, I'm trying to, to be honest with you, I went to a chiropractor, did muscle testing and did clearing of trauma and stuff like that. And he told me, he goes, there is nothing I can do to help you. You got to go home and heal from your trauma. As I'm sitting in his office in just tears, so much pain 24/7. I had to drug myself just to even live or sleep, you know? And so went home and just started researching and pulling this stuff up. And so when I learned about this, exactly what we were talking about, I thought, is this right? Because I was asking, you know, the internal talk, I'm asking, is this really going to help me? And on one rare day, I felt pretty good. I thought, I'm going to go to Costco because there are certain foods I like at Costco. And I'm walking and it hurts to push the cart. It hurts to do anything with my neck and shoulders. So I'm just gently walking slowly. And this older man comes out of an aisleway and we just almost kind of collide. And I moved and I said, oh, pardon me. I didn't see you coming. I was on the right path, the one-way path, and he's the one who came out at me. And I just thought, well, you know, I don't want confrontation. It's my fault. Sorry, excuse me. Immediately he went into women drivers and how awful we were and da 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 da. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? You know? And I almost began to defend myself because that's what I was like offended. Like, what are you, wasn't running into you. And then he just went off. And I didn't recognize it till I was driving away. And the thought came to me, he wasn't even real. I projected him to trigger me, to heal, to begin healing through this, because the man who hit me in the car accident 4 years ago didn't even get out of his vehicle to see if I was okay. The woman did. She ran to me to see if I was, but another man in my life wasn't there for me and didn't care that they had hurt me. And I just wept all the way home and just in gratitude. And I said, I understand now what these are for and what they're meant for. And I was so thankful. And then they just started coming, trigger after trigger after, and then I could only take so much. And then I would just go in my cave. But I look back on that in the dark night of the soul, so to speak. And I'm so thankful for that because it took me years to learn this and work through it. Now where I'm at, the situation I've been in this past week, even a couple of weeks, moving through them quickly and just not effortlessly, but quickly, and allowing the energies to flow and to feel them, and then just loving them and forgiving them and accepting and surrendering. And it just moves through me and I get downloads. Afterwards, I get all this information. It's a beautiful process, not an easy one, but it's a beautiful process if you allow it to be.
Right. You know, and giving gratitude is the best thing that we can do. So when something happens like that, like we said, you know, you step back, you're the observer, and then you realize what it is that's happening, why it triggered you. You know, when you start thinking about it, and if you just give it gratitude, but you don't have to like it, you don't have to want that ever again. It's not that you consent to that kind of behavior. But if you give it gratitude and say, okay, now I know, now I've learned, and now I'm done with that. Now I'm going to go this way and take my path this way lovingly and beautifully. And then it just is, like you said, it just moves, you move through it more quickly, right? It just makes the flow go even that much smoother and easier through life.
Yep, being in the flow.
I have a kind of a thought down a different rabbit hole with projection and reflection, where, you know, when you're talking with someone, they get triggered, and then all of a sudden they, instead of reflecting and doing a self-analysis to themselves, they're projecting a response to a reaction, an instant reaction. And then now that I've grown into this new perspective of observation of things, and I see them going through the process and where they stop and stop reflecting and only projecting. And even sometimes when they think they're hiding and they just don't think that they're projecting, their energy is still projecting because they're not reflecting. So it really does take that self-love. A lot of people are, when they're hiding, it's because they don't have the emotional strength from the exercises of doing what you're talking about to be able to reflect without it. You know, if it gets a little bit painful, we've been programmed to want, well, and it's just an innate thing where do you want pleasure or pain? You know, that's just marketing 101 right there too. You know, we want to go towards pain, towards pleasure and away from pain. And so reflection can take you into pain. And so then they're projecting their pain without even knowing it, sometimes just energetically, because they're not reflecting and they're not saying, oh, how did I create this? Oh, you know what am I vibrating to have this show up? You know, or what channel am I on, so to speak, on the radio station of the universe? that, you know, gosh, you know, like this week, like I was telling you, you know, before the recording, you know, I keep saying, wow, this is quite a whirlwind week. And then I'm just getting more things that are a whirlwind. And it's just like a radio station with, I'm projecting to the universe. The brain is a receiver and a transmitter. So what you're projecting, and reflection is that cycle. I'm glad Nikki brought this up because you really are transmitting and receiving, and so you need to be able to project and reflect. But we're taught, and it's the innate nature with our programming to not show emotion. It's bad to show emotion. It's painful. Why do you want to go there? Reflection's hard and painful, and I'm not projecting. You know what? You're projecting.
Yeah. And so that's the other thing too. So when someone does come at you and you start to reflect yourself, but yet this other person has come at you. So do we look at them in judgment, or do we just realize that, you know, that's okay that they did that, because now I just need to work on myself, and I just need to look at myself. I need to reflect, you know, within, but still without judgment on that other person. And the reason is because in the I am path, that is the only one that we need to be concerned with, is the I am. Not you, not them, just me. So, and so that's always where it ends up. That's where it starts. You know, it begins, it ends right here. So,
and think about what they say in religion and in cultures, you know, don't be selfish, be selfless. And you know, there's just so many different programs in that regard of, hey, you know what, don't love yourself before you love others. That's selfish. And so I think there's in the field of consciousness, in this third dimension, there is that program that's really strong to see self-love as very complicated, because love is complicated because it's programmed as relationship love. And God love is just so huge, it's hard to understand. It's beyond the mind. You know, they get it, you know, that love is this big thing, but most of it is relationship love. And in relationship love, you're supposed to give to your partner, give to your kids, give to the person so that you can be selfless. That's kind of what they teach, when really it takes knowing what self-love is. So this topic actually brings us to self-love. What is self-love? Is it that, oh, I'm fabulous, you know, I've got a lot of talents, I'm really realizing I'm pretty awesome? You know, I remember when I first started waking up 23 years ago, I remember teaching my kids, okay, so judgment's a good thing, you know, and always appreciate when someone is honest with you. You don't have to agree with them. And, you know, be willing to just look at yourself and look at them and just go, you know what, there's a difference between self-confidence and ego. You know, you want to be self-confident, but not egotistical. So that was like, and I see it now, that was a stepping stone to what self-love really is. It's being able to reflect and project back after you reflect instead of just react, project, and not reflect.
And how can we give and give and give and give if we're not filling up, if we're not filling ourselves up? And I think that's why mothers break down or become, get on prescription pills, because we're expected in this culture, especially a religious culture, to give and give and give and not receive. I mean, a mother who takes a bath, oh boy, with babies crying at the door. I mean, that you don't do that. That's you're completely selfless. But if we don't fill ourselves up, that's when the nervous breakdowns that come in. That's when the anxiety and the depression comes in. We're not getting what we need.
Well, and you see all the quotes out there that say, fill your own cup first and put your own mask on before you put other masks on. So I think that there's that goes down to another topic, another rabbit hole of what are the vibrational frequencies of these statements? Because I hear that commonly, but it's really just surface level energetic words
That's
instead
exactly what I was going to say. Love is a vibration.
of yes.
Okay, so it's not an emotion, it's a vibration. And so you have to be vibrating in love, right? You have to have that vibration within in order to project that out. It
And
has
to
to be
reflect.
reflected in before you can project it out. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you really can't reflect without that vibration, without self-judgment, where you are able to tap into and even be willing to see that it's okay that I love myself. What does that mean? Oh, it means that you can actually reflect on yourself without putting yourself down and go, oh, I'm growing and learning. Got it. Okay, that's a good lesson. Good job. Good job, me. Instead of well, that sounds really, it's not confident. That's a little ego there. I think that there's just this, it's rising up though. We are definitely, especially after this eclipse, we are seeing a lot more people who are able to hear these words and feel the vibration. Where I think where I was going with the words a minute ago is these quotes that sound good just are the vibration of them just don't penetrate, because yeah, it's just, you really get to understand that self-love is being able to reflect with little judgment of your, like you did something wrong or bad and you're going to go to heaven or hell. It's like, oh wow, okay, this is a journey and that was a lesson for me, and boy, I'd like to reflect on that so that I can be a better version of myself. I think self-love is also just becoming more and more of the greatness of who you are and that I am within you that gets to experience through you.
Absolutely. I think even just for the average person too, that they are more aware of the words that are being said over the TV or over the announcement or, wherever it is that they're hearing those words. More and more people are becoming aware. What is it exactly that they mean by that? What is that? Whether they know it's a vibration or not, right?
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to that self-awareness. I'm thinking that Nikki may want to pop in and say a little something, I hope. Are you there, Nikki? She's driving. It might not be the right time. That's okay. When you pop in, we'll just let you go whenever you pop in. Yeah, that was well said, Lorena. Yeah, there's so much about it. Anything that comes up in our sight, it's just what we need to do is just turn it inward, look within, see what it is, have that self-talk, have that self-love and forgiveness, whatever it is that's coming up that we need to to bring it up, look at it, whatever darkness it is, if that's what you want to call it. It would be an organic darkness, really. And what we're wanting to do is just bring it into balance, right?
You know, one of the
So-
best things that helped me start doing that was to reflect on what I was projecting. because when you are when you become an observer of yourself and what you are projecting to yourself and others, which stems from the words that you use, which is why I love that we did the covered with the words thing. We could go do another 10 episodes on words, but
Spells.
yeah, exactly. And you know, it really helped me to realize on multiple levels. I mean, we can talk body language, expressions, you know, facial expressions, physical touch, so many different ways to project. And then, you know, how is that being received from yourself? How am I receiving myself? How are others receiving what I'm projecting? And when it comes back to the observer, and that's that where you rise above and you rise out of the third dimension to observe yourself and others, and you see all of a sudden I'm starting to see things like an avatar game, like, oh, this is what I'm projecting and that's what you're projecting, and I'm going to reflect and I'm going to see if you're reflecting, and it's cool if you're not, because we're just in this game. And you know, it's just, I don't know, it's just become easier to reflect when you observe what you're projecting.
I agree.
Instead of like be like attached to it.
That's a
Hey,
whole
Nikki.
Hey, I would love to share at this point, because this
Yay!
is where I'm like, this is where I wanted to get to, especially with you ladies, like I should say with Harvesting Light, but it ended up being you ladies, so this is
Yeah.
perfect. So what I've observed as the observer, because that's been for the past 12 months at least, that's been my objective, is to stay in the observer position. We did a Harvesting Light over at Roger's house, and you know, I really do love the guy so much. And he brought to all of our attention that day what it feels like and what it looks like to stay in the moment of being the observer. And it was a beautiful meditation that we did. And I kept it with me for about a year now, and I've been working on it. So here is my thoughts on being the reflector, as well as the observer, as well as the projector. I've noticed that as you are the observer, you're stepping outside of what you just talked about, the 3D. You're even stepping outside of the potentiality of your own timeline, because you are now observing multiple timelines across multiple dimensions for some of us, and you are stepping outside of all of them. So it's not about projecting and reflecting at that time, right? You're observing.
Yes.
So what I found is that I will begin to reflect things that I'm not even consciously aware of, because the person in front of me needs to be reflected on. Like all of a sudden something will happen in my life and I'll respond to somebody just out of my own personal thoughts. Like I have no judgment. I have no, you know, premeditative meanness inside of me. Like I'm just being honest. Like something's going on and I'm being honest. This happened with my mom yesterday on the phone. And all of a sudden she's freaking out and she's like, oh my gosh, like whatever I said, because I don't even remember what I said, but whatever I said reflected back to her what she needed to work on. And it just triggered her. And she just was like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Mom, I'm really sorry that it's hard for you to hear this right now, because like, I don't know. I'm talking about my dad and he's always in pain. But I realized over that situation with my parents, but also many different situations in my life, that as you become the observer, you get to now be a piece of the puzzle that you're not actually intentionally trying to become, because you are in the hands of the great orchestrator at that point. It's like when we're waking up, we become, oh, I'm at a red light and I look red now.
It's been fun to watch you be in your reflections.
Driving through St. George, but I have no kids with me. I'm on my way home. So
no judgment from us.
I'm feeling very grounded right now.
Nice.
So, but yeah, just as we step outside of this world. So first, we're very much grounded in victim, in pain, in shame, fear, guilt. And then we say, okay, I'm going to consciously become aware of who I am, and I'm going to move through all the steps: self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-expression, and I'm going to be in self-love. And that's what you guys had already talked about. Self-love. What is it? Self-care. What does it look like? And then once you've been in that state of self-awareness, you move into this great observer. And I say great observer because it's a whole nother level of consciousness, and to stay there. That's the secret, is it's not just to get to that point, but to live in that observation every day.
Yes.
So you have people coming up to you, reflecting all of the things that you need to work on. How do you respond? You have people coming up to you, project, here's all my BS. Let me project all of my anger, hate, shame, and fear onto you. And through both of those states of awareness, you are capable of just observing both of them. So then the magic happens. The great creator and the great destroyer, mother and father, dark and light, they are now completely, what's the word I'm looking for? I see like absorbed. They are completely like you're a sponge, and you've completely absorbed them into your state of consciousness. Now you are back to being a puppet again. But it's not a puppet for somebody here on earth that is just super intentional, because you became the super intentional one. But you are actually the hands and the mouthpiece and the energy of the gods, the mother, the father, source creation. You are their tool. So how does the work get done here on earth? It's an onion, like Shrek said. It's multi-layers. And what I've now realized and got to experience in my life is that when I let go of my own personal state of being, which is also an ego, right? Like, what's going to happen to me? Where's my life going to go? Am I going to be successful? Am I going to be a failure? Am I happy? Am I not? Right? Because like, that's all ego. Like anytime, what's going on? So it's just been really fun. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because a lot of us are still worried about getting triggered. But then some of us are going, okay, well, I don't really get triggered anymore because I'm aware. I loved when you guys talked about that. The person triggering me is teaching me. They're showing me the things that still piss me off, the things that still make me feel insecure, the things that still make me question who I am.
Because we are always the teacher and the student, always.
Yes.
It's important to be both in every situation.
100%. And being both in every situation, I believe, is now the great observer. Because
Yes.
yeah, you get to see for yourself. Wait, is this a time of learning, or is this a time of teaching? Or here's the other magnificent one that I think Buddha was probably very good at. Is this the time of silence and stillness, where I will not teach and I will not be the student, because this is a lesson I've already mastered, but I will sit and hold space for those around me? Because this has been, I haven't told anyone but Travis this. This has been my state in harvesting light for these past 6 or 9 months, is Nikki, become the observer of the people around you. See where they are at. See what it is that they're working on or struggling with or trying to see, but cannot quite clearly see the picture. Because when we're the observer, I have just felt so much more compassion towards other people's pain or sorrow or confusion, or them feeling lost on their own journeys. Because it's like, oh, here, you're not really lost. You just forgot where you're going, and stuff
So
like that.
good. That's a classic line right there. You're not really lost. You just forgot where you were going. It's all good.
Keep your eyes off the road.
And so I've become the bumper, and I feel like that's what the observer is now. Is you're the bumper, and you get to see the projection and reflection, and you get to help people just stay in the lanes. Like, no, this is your mission, and that's their mission over there, and it's not going to look like yours. Some of us are here for light, some of us are here for darkness. It all comes at different times, and we get to respect each other's paths. Travis taught me that. I don't judge my parents anymore like I used to. They want to be triple vaxxed and watch the news. I love them through it, you know, and that used to really, really trigger me, because I was that person who always said, why do you spend so much time focused on that when that, whatever it is not getting you to where you want to be? Because for me, I'm a walk-in, ladies, we've all heard this, but I take life super seriously, and I try not to ever allow myself to intentionally get caught up in something that is not putting me in the place where I'm desired to go. And so, sure, I choose to get distracted. Like, I will binge watch my shows that I love, because that's my tune out time. Because if I'm too much in this world, it really, really starts to affect my energy. So I've learned, like, I don't have to feel guilty for binge watching a couple of shows on my day off, because that's my tune out time, you know? And so we all get that. But anyways, yeah, I love your conversation. I enjoyed listening to all of it. I love the understanding, and let's just continue to anchor in that vibration that we get to be both the projector, the reflector, as well as the observer, and that we get to allow other people's space to be triggered, and we can observe their trigger and then learn what it is that we can do. So, you know, like when you trigger someone, you can be like, oh, well, you get triggered easily, or, oh, you're not doing any self-work, or whatever, right? Because you see it as the observer, but then instead of moving into that judgment of why, what I've been trying to do for myself is go, okay, so you just triggered them and they didn't handle it very well. So how could you learn from this in order to help serve that person in my life? You know, especially you guys, my loved ones, my community. It's like, now I actually have been kind of keeping a mental dialogue of, if this bothers this person, how can I help them love themselves more, like you talked about, Lorena? And as we love ourselves more, then we understand why we're getting triggered. And as a community, we can start to embrace that side of somebody. Like, oh, you know, she gets triggered when we talk about this, so let's make sure when we talk about it that we make this our focus in order for her to see herself differently. So, because I have kids and I'm a mom, that's always kind of my state of mind. Is I love seeing people loving themselves more. And so that's where I'm at the point of being the observer. Is I don't really care if I'm reflecting or projecting, as long as you're loving yourself more at some point during the process. So.
And then that goes with loving your ego. Your ego is how you're on this planet. Your ego is what keeps you driven to create, you know, to survive, to live. And so there's this confusion right now on the earth of some light workers, quote unquote, that say, you know, we need to dissolve the ego. And really, we really need to balance the ego and go, hey, you know what? I'm so thankful for you. God, we're rolling through this. And as you were talking, I could just see like little signs on the top of my like little light bulbs that say judge, reflector, projector. And I'm like, oh, you know, it's just like turning into this like game where I'm like, oh, am I being the judge, the reflector, the observer? And then I'm the all of it.
Yeah.
And then if you know, you recognize that I'm all of those things, and so are you. And right now you're in that, and you observe them doing that. You just have less emotional attachment to them doing the projecting or the reflecting if it's not to your ego's satisfaction. Once you become that observer, you're able to look at that as, oh, I understand now better.
Well, and questions are so important. About a month ago, my nervous system was this high anxiety, and I was like, why isn't it calming down? Like, what is going on? And so I asked the question, and I said, and I kind of just looked inside and I said, what's going on? Why do I feel so much upset? Why do I feel so much anxiety? And instantly I heard, you broke me. And I knew instantly it was my ego. And I just so very lovingly and gently, I just said, no, honey, You're just not in charge anymore. I love you dearly, and I count on you to be here for me and with me. But you're going to take a back seat. And instantly, everything calmed down, and my ego was assured and loved. And so questions are very, very important that I have found in my journey.
Yeah. Well, and that goes with connecting to your source self,
Yes.
when you are able to ask. That's why in scriptures there's a lot of truth, just not all truth in scriptures or in text, where it says, ask and it shall be given, knock and it shall be open unto you.
Yes.
There's this thing that we have in this free will, and the free will on planet Earth in the third dimension is where we can't remember on purpose, so that we have free will to create and to choose, so that we have diversity, so we can keep the infinite expanding. And so then, we forget to ask, hey, we're connected to these beings that are beyond the third dimension that can help us, but they're also not going to interfere with the game rules of, I want to let you do what you need to do while you're, because they're not going to interject until we ask.
And we've got to be the team captain, because they're on our team, but they're not going to jump in and lead you and tell you what to do. We have to be our own team captain as we move forward in that, and that decision that we've made. They really come in and help us out, but we need to jump off the cliff first. We need
It's
to
just
fly.
like it was just like what I was talking about, being on the I am path. It's all about the I am. There's nobody else, right? Just the I am. And so a good way of putting that is that there's the circle and you're in the center. And so we have our community, right? But you're in the center of that community. And so without a circle, there is no center. And without a center, you can't have, there's just no circle. So you got to be in the center of the circle, and always. And so the self-love, the self-talk, the self-awareness, being the observer, all just very right on point for all of the reflection and how to handle projection. Really just ties in completely.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Thank you.
So I see you came back on, Nikki. You got anything else?
No, I was just trying to stay involved in the conversation. I love what you guys are saying, because something that comes clear to me often is that the reason why I continue doing Harvesting Light is because the people that are willing to talk about these things and experience life differently right now, we are going to be the pioneers of the fifth dimension. We are going to be the ushers of the new way, the Tao, the I am consciousness, that nobody really understands, because everyone's kind of waiting to be pushed off the cliff. And they're like, yeah, I'll be more spiritual when I have time, right? And so what's been coming to me more and more is that we're all the teachers right now, and that, like, when Sherry wanted to do this group, it was just like, yes, I want everybody in Harvesting Light to find their own way of branching off to bring in more people with more talk about truth. Because that's all that my heart, that's all my heart desires, is we're all meant to be teachers. And like, I teach in my space. I was with one of our soul sisters, Alicia, which some of you met on our channel. She's tuned into our radio station, and she gets it. And so we were doing some yard work last week in the garden, and she's like talking to me about, I'm not really sure about listening to people, and there's like a lot of these fake spiritual people out there right now, and these people like trying to talk about the ascension and talk about twin flames and talk about all these things that are like the trendy topics to talk about. And so she just kind of brought up to me, that she's feeling very like questioning the world around her in this spiritual space. And I told her, I said, Alicia, I'm really glad that you brought that up to me, because I have felt like for at least a year or more than a year, probably a year and a half, closer to 2 years, I have been feeling like I cannot teach the general population, like public people. So I did, those of you, which I don't think any of you knew me when I did this, but when I started this process, before I started Harvesting Light, when I was figuring out how to move from 3-dimensional awareness into 5-dimensional awareness, I did 40 days live on Facebook. And during that 40 days live, I interviewed what I saw at that time as 4 very highly spiritual people in the St. George community. And during that 40 days live, I learned a lot about the people around me, because there was judgment, there was projection and reflection, right? There's all these things going on. But I knew that I know I'm a teacher. I know that I have taught, and that we download that come to us naturally, that are things that we're meant to teach to the world. However, not many people in the world are ready to hear all of the messages. And so it's been very clear to me over this past 18 months or so that many of my messages are really just for you guys, really just the people I've been close to that are on the same path as me. And so that day when I was working with Alicia, you know, I asked her what it was that was bothering her, and we got into this deep conversation. And it wasn't just me teaching her, it was her teaching me equally through that high vibrational conversation that we were both in tune with. You know, it wasn't just like, hey, here's Nikki with a message to share, and everybody, because when I was doing my 40 days live, it was a lot of that, where it was just me sharing what came through to me, and I wasn't really getting a whole lot of high vibrational feedback, but I got a lot of love and support, like, oh, thank you, thank you, you know, that's what I needed to hear, thank you. But not a lot of people going, oh, thanks for sharing that, and this is what I think about it.
Right.
And that's what I love about, yeah, right? So now I have Lorena and Anna and Michelle and Sherry, and we get to have a conversation where we bring up a topic, but the rest of us have something to respond with. We are also thinking the same thoughts. We're on the same frequency. So,
Can I interject really quick?
And I like the way that Anna said it though earlier too, is that we're both the teacher and the student. And that's the nice thing about having this conversation with each other. And as we talk about all this, it's all about that growth and raising the vibration and, you know, having that healing and just sharing our truth. That is what it's all about. And I'm just, thank you for all of you just being here and sharing your truth, because it helps me too. I'm just the one that's like facilitating the conversation, and that's it. You guys are holding it. So
Well, and one of the
that.
things that I learned recently from Matthias DeStefano was when the ascended masters are in that 5th dimension, and that doesn't always necessarily mean that they're masters over the 3rd dimension, because they actually are learning from us. But he was talking about that some of these ascended masters, when they get to that enlightened observational point of view, they actually are just they don't have any desire to go out and teach. They're just being, and then they just teach by like what we're doing, just having conversations, and just instead of it's, oh, I'm teacher, I'm student, even that label disappears, and you become present with what is in the moment of just conversations with vibrations, and it's no longer teacher student. You're just
truly being in the flow, truly being in the flow. I actually heard somebody say that on a podcast that was channeling some of the archangels, and they were like, what do you guys do? And they're like, we have conversations about you guys, and we get together and we'll talk about this kind of stuff. And I was like, I would have never asked that question, but like, that is so true. And look at, we're practicing that now, aren't we?
Michelle.
Hey, ladies. So I just wanted to tell all of you, thank you so much. I wanted to really just observe, because this is stuff that I'm still struggling with, you know, and so I learned a lot tonight. You know, one thing that I have learned, oh, there was just so much. I wish I could have, I was driving the whole time and I wish I could have taken notes and stuff, but, I wasn't ready in 2016 when I was like introduced to a lot of this stuff, right? And I don't know, my higher power, my angels, my guides, they've just led me so gracefully uh through this process. It's just kind of been so beautiful and painful because we all have a story, right? And one thing that comes to mind is like when I share my stuff, you know, being a hairdresser, I get to meet people all day long, right? And I work with this girl who she's not very enlightened at all, and she texted me today and she like said something and I was like, well, thank you. And she's like, I really look up to the woman that you are, and blah. And I don't take compliments very well because I'm still learning how to love myself, right? I wasn't taught those things. I was very religious and stuff like that. But what I said back to her is I'm just a reflection of you, and you have that within yourself. You just need to be taught if you're willing to choose to listen, right? Because sometimes I don't want to hear it. Sometimes I'm so used to that chaos or that negativity because that's what I've gone through all my life, you know. And when the sky is falling, I'm Chicken Little running around thinking that the whole world, I'm catastrophizing. And it's just a process. And so I've learned just to be really loving, which isn't always so easy, but I'm so grateful for you ladies. I am going into my recovery meeting right now. And I just wanted to tell you, I love these conversations. I really learned a lot tonight.
Can I
And
ask you a question?
yeah,
What was her response to you saying that to her?
I know.
Interesting.
But here's the
Interesting.
thing, even though like sometimes we know she's got a lot of pain, you know, and I see myself and where she was at just a few
Yes.
years ago, right? Just even the last
Reflecting,
few months.
reflecting and projecting and reflecting
Right.
and
And so what
observing.
I've
Oh,
learned, what I've learned is through this process is like unconditionally loving people for who they are. It doesn't mean I don't have boundaries, right? Or I need to have boundaries. Like I
mhm.
had a friend the other day. I have a friend who keeps going out and using drugs, and I didn't hear from him for 2 days, and I was super worried, and all I can do is pray, right? And my friend goes, I don't know how you do it with him. Like, and he's just, I said, I looked at my friend and I said, because I love him, because we're all worth it. You
Yeah.
know, doesn't mean I can save him. Doesn't mean I can tell him, look, you know, you're going to end up dead. I mean, he knows all that, you know, and he's like, well, he needs to go to rehab. And I said, you know, I disagree. Like he can do this if he chooses to, just like I can choose my thoughts, which I've been really practicing the last few days, listening to Louise Hayes every morning because I suffer from depression and anxiety, and I've been doing my yoga in the mornings and like, and the second like a negative thought comes in or whatever, like I'm like, okay, you can choose to change that thought, Michelle. And so it's working, but we have to choose it. But to open that up to other people, they may not be ready, but if we say it lovingly, I don't know, I've just been finding little ways to say it. I'm like, oh, I belong to this group called Harvesting Light, you know, or I go to CSL or whatever it is, and I'm just like, it's helping. But then they see me a total mess one day and they're like, well, it's not helping. Well, it doesn't mean that it's going to take all my problems away. Like, you
Right.
know,
That's when you get into the
that's
programming and you just start to see, oh, that's okay. I've been there. I understand.
right,
You
right.
know,
One
really,
step at
it's
a
just that
time.
there's polarity and there's going to be, you know, I'm going to go through the good times and I'm going to go through the bad times and I'm observing them both. But you can't say that to just anybody. So you just
No.
let them look, you know, you never underestimate the power of planting a seed. We have like all these
Right.
little, you know, really magical seeds in this beautiful, like magical garden with Harvesting Light. And I just, these magical seeds are literally just being planted all over. And so those you're planting magical seeds. They're
And
gonna
just
sprout.
even like the power of praying, right? When I pray to like I just pray every day, and I'm just like, okay, you know, I just send love, light, and peace to everyone that crosses my path. You know, help
Yes.
me, and just help me find a way to serve however I know how to serve. And sometimes it's just magical, like even massaging someone's head while I'm washing their hair, you know. And so it's been an interesting journey, and I'm so grateful for all of you. But I do have to go, and I love you all. Nikki, I do need to contact you about this weekend. I want to talk to you about that. So I'll reach out.
Love
Hey,
you.
thank you,
Thank you,
Michelle. Love
Michelle.
you, Michelle.
Yeah,
Love you
so
too.
glad you were
Bye.
on. We'll see you.
Have a good
Thanks.
night.
You
Love
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, thank you ladies so much for being here tonight and sharing your truths. And it was such a fabulous conversation to have with all of you, and just to hear all of our own truths just come out. And hopefully that anybody else that listens on, they will gain as much as we did. So
Sherry, thank you for doing this, because I'm telling you, and I probably say this every time, but it's okay. It's what I feel is just gratitude. And I'm so thankful you do this, because I'll have so many really, I think of as really epic conversations on these vibrational, you know, levels of exchange, and just it's fun. It's energetically fun, you know.
It is fun.
And then there's so many nuggets of gold, and so many really awesome, you know, things that you're like, wow, I wish this was being recorded so I could go back and listen to that part again.
And it is. Thank you for recording, Sherry.
absolutely. Yeah. I'm so
Oh,
glad
and
to
one
do
more
it.
thing I was going to mention too, like about the archangels and the ascended masters and those others in that fifth dimension, and that observe and watch us. I mean, I'll have, especially with my daughter, I mean, we'll have these high energy, high vibration, high love relationship, you know, not relationship, just conversation. And sometimes we'll just start laughing because they're just so, I call it Olympic conversations. And, you know, we're like going for the gold medal or something because the vibration's so high. We're vibrating like we feel like we're just, the whole block's probably like, and I'm like, you know what? I think these archangels are probably like, if, they're probably recording us. Hey, they're on again. Jaden and Lorena's on again. Everybody tune in. You know?
Right. It's like the TV shows they binge watch when they're just chilling.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, Humanity, the reality show. Now that would be big.
I literally,
We're all crazy.
totally tuning in.
Yeah.
And you know, I see like
Well,
all these massive, like,
funny.
yeah, like stadiums, and
Yep.
I'm just like, yeah,
Mhm.
that was epic. That was hilarious.
Dolores Cannon says that the extraterrestrials call this Disney World because everybody wants to come here and check out the crazy humans that like kill each other for drama. You know, I'm like, it's
yes, it's super true. I'm
then
gonna
when we
take a
have-
picture.
And then when we have like an aha moment where you're like, whoa, this just happened. Can you believe that phenomenon happened? And then our, you know, real source and these extraterrestrials are like, it's like, it's like normal, but, and then we actually know it is because we know, but we still go,
Yeah.
wow.
I know.
Yes,
We're so full
you
of
guys,
ourselves.
I have to tell you, there's actually a name for the place that you're talking about. And on the poster, the Great Awakening poster that Travis has in our restroom, I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm going to go home and take a picture because there's a group of people, and I don't know if it's a place or a group of people, but it actually says on the poster, this is where they observe the third dimension. And it's because we are what they call the grand experiment. So everything you're talking about right now is 100% true. And I wouldn't doubt if we all have like our own followers up there.
Right.
We so do.
Yeah.
We may just be a few group of women here, but we got followers that we can't see.
Yeah,
Oh, heck yeah.
that's like the TikTok, but this is the microcosm, macrocosm. This is like the
Yeah.
microcosm.
So
Exactly.
true.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, that's funny. That's inspired because I think that is absolute truth.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wow.
That's what happens when we all have these conversations on these vibrational levels of just exchanging what we're vibrating. And then it's just, we laugh and we play, and then it's like, oh, that's
We just had a
we just
glimpse
know.
through their eyes.
Mhm.
We totally
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
and still
100%.
are.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and it's like one more thing is too is we're helping others like planting seeds, helping them reminding,
Yes.
you know, because with one mind, it's one consciousness that
Yes.
we're all plugged into.
Yes.
And so I love, hey, I'm just here reminding, you know,
Yeah, that's
reminding
all I'm
everyone-
doing tomorrow is remembering.
Yeah,
That's
so
it.
That's right.
I'm
Tuning in
putting
and
it back
remembering.
together,
Mhm.
or we're just going back into
Mhm.
the reminding, you know. I love that.
Yes.
Love you
Super
guys so
fun.
much.
This was really great. I enjoyed this thoroughly.
Oh, I'm so glad that you were here. All of you, thank you
Yes.
so much for being here. Okay, well, we'll call it a night until next
Okay.
week.
Mhm.
Okay,
All right.
love
Awesome.
you.
Till next week.
Love you.
Love
See you
you
guys.
guys.
Good night.
Good night.